Middlemen.
Hello there. It is another Middlemen session where we don't just talk, we probe. In a country where silence is survival and questions feel like rebellion, we dare to ask anyway. We dig beneath the headlines, strip away the slogans, and confront the chaos we have all learned to live with. Our jurors are ever ready to speak truth to power with their punchy cases. Juror Henry Igwebuike exposes how real estate companies are scamming unsuspecting Nigerians by selling promises instead of properties. His case titled Real Estate Fraud and the Silence of Regulatory Authorities calls for a serious reform and a system that protects buyers. Juror Olajumoke Alawode-James reflects on how Nigerians react to President Buhari's passing in a case titled Rest President Buhari. The case highlights the pain many still feel over his time in office, from injustice to broken promises and questions, a culture that asks us to stay silent even in truth. Juror Emeka Madunago challenges the rising belief among young Nigerians that education is a waste, arguing instead for its enduring value in a world obsessed with fast success. His case is titled School is Not a Scam. And I, Juror Evans Ufeli, uncovers the deep roots of police brutality, corruption, and the disturbing silence from Delta State leaders. My case focused on the sick Ndokwa protester held in custody, denied medical attention and basic dignity. My case is titled The Injustice Faced by Stanley Adoh. These cases and more will be in right after this quick break. This is still the Middlemen, and we'll bring you, and we'll be back later.
Middlemen. Middlemen. Middlemen.
My case. Thanks for staying tuned. The injustice faced by Stanley Adoh. The unlawful detention of Stanley Adoh of the Light Up Ndokwa protest has thrown a glaring spotlight on the alarming issue of police brutality and negligence in Nigeria, particularly within Delta State region. As every citizen has the inherent right to life, liberty, and security, the Nigerian police force must be held accountable for their actions or lack thereof in protecting these basic rights. The refusal of the police to provide medical assistance or grant access to treatment is not just an affront to one individual. It is an indictment of the entire law enforcement system meant to serve and protect the populace. On July 16, 2025, Stanley Adoh took ill, a situation that should have prompted immediate medical intervention, especially given that he was in police custody. However, the police opted to ignore his deteriorating condition while asking us for a 200,000 naira bribe to attend to him. This corruptive negligence highlights a fundamental problem: the prevalent disregard for human life and dignity, particularly among those who have fallen into the hands of the law enforcement agency, is unassailable. Police force appear to be more concerned with criminality and maintaining useless authority rather than fulfilling their primary duty to ensure that the safety and well-being of every citizen, regardless of their status or situation. Moreover, it is alarming to witness the silence and inaction from the leadership of Delta State government, the Governor Sheriff Oboruwere and the Deputy Governor, Sir Monday Onyema. Their role entails overseeing the operations of law enforcement within their jurisdiction. And their lack of intervention in this matter raises serious questions about their commitment to justice and human rights. The indifference of state leadership to the plight of ordinary citizens speaks volume about the systemic failure that plagued Nigerian's governance and justice system. The promise made under God to uphold police accountability for any harm that befall Stanley Adoh is not merely an emotional response. It is a declaration of resolve by the Ndokwa community. We are tired of sitting idly while our rights are violated, while our voices are silenced, and while our loved ones suffer. The time has come for the community to stand united and demand accountability, not just for Stanley, but for every individual who has been wronged by the criminal justice system. Let the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetukun, recognize the gravity of this situation and take immediate action. His leadership is vital in the restoration of faith in our police force that has increasingly become synonymous with brutality rather than protection. To the Commissioner of Police in Delta State, CP Aboniwonda Olufemi, your role is crucial in defining the relationship between law enforcement agencies and the citizens they serve. It is time that the police be made to adhere to protocols that prioritize the ethical treatment of detainees, starting with the provisions of medical care. The community of Ndokwa deserve justice. We deserve a police force that operates with integrity and without bias. It is imperative that our leaders heed to this call for the sake of justice. Otherwise, we risk diminishing the value of human life and dignity, which are supposed to be the cornerstone of our society. We owe it to Stanley Adoh and every citizen suffering in silence to push back against the systemic failure. Your silence is complicity. Your inaction is a betrayal. Let us rise together in the pursuit of justice, accountability, and a better society. Ndokwaba Mama, I shall go to Rabbi again.
Ndokwa Mama.
Ndokwaba Mama, that is, let Ndokwa be great, or let Ndokwa be good.
The perennial issue, actually, and this speaks to the issue of moral disengagement. That is when those in authority detach ethical feelings just to promote their violent traits. That's what we've seen with our Nigerian police force. And apart from that, we have issues like desensitization, where they totally remove their emotions, just to promote the violent acts that they give to people. So this is not a new thing coming from the Nigerian police. It's been there for quite some time. I guess what we should rather be talking about here is how can we, if possible, retrain our Nigerian police force? Because the truth remains, it's not like they don't know how to treat people that are within their confines. They understand how to do that. But the problem is because of the institutionalized violence that we have, you see them becoming part of the rot that we try to, if possible, reduce. I do not know how we can solve this holistically because it's been there for quite some time. And I do not know.
Without trying to malign the Nigerian police, whoever named them the Nigeria Police Force, putting force in their name, knew that they were established as a as a system for the oligarchs to hold on to power, right? They will never treat a Dangote, even if he commits a crime, you know, like the way this gentleman has been treated, you know. But the politicians like the Nigerian police force like that. That's why they will use them as escorts. Have 4 or 5 of them, you know, go everywhere with them. If there is a threat or of attack on them, you know, they want them like that. What we need to do, because government after government, we've spoken about reforming them. In 2020, we went all out, saying, you must end SARS, end Nigerian police force, end this, end that. They changed their name from SARS to SWAT. Nothing changed. It is still the same mentality. What we need, I think, is to leave them to be escorting politicians the way they are and create community policing, right? Where each community, you know, is in charge of getting its own vigilante groups and things like that. Have them maybe trained by the military or paramilitary. Have them be able to carry small arms, maybe, I don't know. But because, you know, by the time you start to put arms into the hands of different people in different communities, you know. But again, if you don't know what the next person is carrying, you'll be cautious when you approach them. But I think that community policing is the way to go, where we're in I mean, all of us have estates where we hire security guards to man our gates because we do not trust the police force to be available when there's serious crime. But let me just have 200,000 naira like they've asked them for and accuse him wrongly now. They will come and carry him first, detain him, torture him to the extent he will confess to what he didn't even do. And we've seen that happen over and over and over. That's why when we pray the prayer, may Nigeria not happen to you, it's because of situations like this.
But don't you think at the same time, even as we speak to Nigeria as reference, if you go to Kenya, it's still the same issue, right? The police brutality. Just the last concluded a protest that they did. About 10 people were killed. Larry Adoh, the CNN reporter in Africa, he was in Nigeria, in Enugu, when he learned that the police force had warned that he should not come back to Kenya. So he didn't even make it to Kenya as at the time they held the protest there because he was scared he was going to be arrested.
You know, so I do not know,
is it an African thing?
Well, there's police brutality in the US, and again, it's usually targeted at the blacks because they profile the blacks, that they're the ones who commit a lot of the crimes. You find a black man even in Europe, you are also profiled, you know. Maybe it's only in the UAE that you see that their police are very friendly. They're more willing to help you. Their arms are concealed, you know. Again, Africans have started showing our faces in the UAE to the extent they're banning Nigerians from age 45 and under. Don't even come at all. And you must have trillions in your account and things like that. So the point is, there's police brutality all over the world. But where there are no consequences, right? In Nigeria, there's hardly any consequence for you to... The Nigerian police will say to you that I will kill you and nothing will happen. Most times nothing does happen.
Yes.
In all over the world where there's police brutality, you can file a case and, you know, the person is, you know, maybe punished if found guilty. Some of them will go scot-free because of
damages too.
Yes, so our policemen keep disappointing us. This case falls under the heat of passion for me because I was directly involved in this whole thing where they were asking for money, and we beckoned on them, 2 lawyers. We had to fight them to the point where we argued up to the CP's office, okay, and they backed down and apologized. But what is important is the intent, the initial intent to extort a man that is in detention to start with, who did not commit any offense, who fell ill in detention. By the laws of this country, if you are under police custody or under any of the law enforcement custody, when you are ill, they are supposed to provide you with medication. When you are hungry, they are supposed to provide you with food. How be it the quality of the food does not matter right now. It is their responsibility once you are under their custody
held you
to provide all you need to stay alive.
Yes.
You understand? That is why the prison authority had to budget so much money for food, toiletries, all those things to take care of in me. Because the moment you are called a suspect, or the moment you are taken into custody and you lose your right to movement and some other rights, you understand? The state now owns you, and the state is supposed to take care of your welfare. That is the law. Whether the state is underfunding the police or they are underfunding, that's not your business. That they are underfunding does not mean you should die.
Very true.
Yeah, they should provide these things, and we made them to understand that they must provide all those things. So when they put up resistance, we too will heighten the situation, and we have to land somewhere.
How is the gentleman doing? Hope he's in high spirits.
Yes, he's doing well, knowing that his people are behind him. First, he did not commit any offense. But the problem is that the state government, because they don't have any case, they are rigmaroling. First, you say that you are charging him for conspiracy. Can a man conspire against himself? Because he's alone, he's the only one. I mean, you say he destroyed railway. There's no railway in Kwale.
Yeah, well.
There's no railway in Kwale. You say he committed malicious damage of property and whatever it is. The police were the ones who came there and introduced violence into the protest and the rest of that. So the charge is a complete sham. And that is why they are moving from one court to the other.
It's very reminiscent of Nigerian police to do things like, as you are mentioning all the situation in this case, it's just reminding me of El Zakzaki. They blocked the highway, they touched the chief of army staff in his chest, the public disturbance, they murdered somebody, and then they held him for years. The court kept on saying, release him on bail. He's ill. He needs to attend to his health care. They helped from 2015 December to 2021 August. He was going back and forth to the courts.
Back and forth. So
almost the entire length of Buhari's tenure.
And they will tell you that Buhari didn't do
that he did well. That is the conversation I had in one of the Tuesdays when we were analyzing Buhari, and I said
don't worry, we will still analyze Buhari today.
That he broke laws and all that.
Yes, he was a military man, and his training was not democratic in any way.
Yes, so the police should save us this thing.
Or is it possible that because the police have served for too long under military dictators, they've become, rather than being the democratic way, of maintaining law and order, they have become an institution of forcing people to
a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
No, the police have been there with their wickedness before the army was even started. The police started in 1930. The army started 30 years after, 1960. You understand? So the police already had their own, that they were formed already.
No, but you remember that the colonial police force, right?
Yeah, that's the police force.
They were used against their brothers, if you remember. Which is why I'm saying that the person who named them Nigeria Police Force knew what they wanted to use them for. It was against the people.
But that we've come a long way from that.
Yeah.
And to imagine that Showore is protesting for them.
All of us in NSAS protest, were we not protesting for them?
But interestingly, Canada now has said, the Canadian courts, they've thrown out 3 cases by 3 Nigerian police officers asking for asylum.
For where?
They describe the police in very uncharitable terms.
Yeah.
But they won't learn, and that is the sad thing.
It's been institutionalized for them to be wicked, to be honest. Except you are willing to pay before they play ball.
We'll go on a short break, and when we return, Henry Igwebuike's case titled Real Estate Fraud and the Silence of Regulatory Authorities will be coming right up. Stay tuned for more to come.
Middlemen.
Thank you for staying tuned. My case, real estate fraud and the silence of regulatory authorities. Now, let me start with the mannerism of Scott Nguma. PWAN Real Estate Company, the real estate company that sells receipt instead of land. It is now an anthem that has become the cockcrow at dawn cautionary warning for newbie real estate investors in Nigeria. I know you would love to get the full gist, isn't it? Now, let's get to it. In a country already grappling with mistrust in governance and the rising economic hardship, the exposure of alleged fraudulent real estate practices by companies like PWAN and others is a harsh reminder of how the dream of home ownership is being turned into a nightmare, particularly for Nigerians in the diaspora. Social commentator Scott Nguma's recent expose revealed how developers use emotionally manipulative marketing, often cloaked in motivational speaking and spiritual appeal, to lure unsuspecting buyers into dubious land schemes. The so-called developers promise instant allocation, government-approved plots, and a state of the future, only for many to discover that they have paid for farmlands, unregistered parcels, or non-existent properties. Worse still, these schemes are not hidden. Billboards, radio ads, social media campaigns, and glossy real estate expos abroad proudly push these offers, yet the government remains disturbingly quiet. Agencies like the EFCC, ICPC, and the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, REDAN, have offered little to no proactive oversight. Even with countless complaints, legal actions are rare, and the victims are left to either write off their losses or engage in lengthy, often futile litigations. Nigerians abroad who had hoped to build homes back home now view the country as an investment graveyard, thanks to a system that rewards fraud and punishes trust. The silence of the government is not just complicity, it is endorsement. Now, my verdict. We call for immediate reforms, enforceable regulations, a national real estate fraud tribunal, and proper licensing and auditing of developers, and criminal penalties for deceptive marketing. The credibility of Nigeria's investment climate and the hopes of many of its citizens depend on this.
Yeah, very interesting. But not to counter what you said, I know I can give kudos to the FCCPC, the Federal Consumer Complaints and Protection Commission. Yes, and then I think there's also a case, such fraudulent investment, which the EFCC has successfully concluded. They seized land across from the Federal Capital Territory to Nasarawa State to different places, seized filling stations and all of that, And of course, they say they're going to refund the subscribers. So the FCCPC has also tried, because I have had a case with one of the affiliates of PWAN. Interestingly, I'm even a PWAN business operator. Yes, but but of course,
is it network marketing?
Well, the way it is this. People just go register with them. So that if they are selling any scheme, you can advertise it. You can advertise. You can also invest. Of course, we are as a real estate marketers and developers. We look for opportunities here and there. But I think basically it has to do with the fact that managing expectations is a problem of these real estate companies. The investment climate in Nigeria doesn't encourage trust, and that is where the problem is. There are a lot of people who are willing to bring out money, but like the prologue said, see, they use juicy offers and all that. But when people like us go in the honesty of our hearts, to market these things, people look at us. We are not driving a Rolls Royce, or we are not coming in flowery, apparel, and so they don't want to listen. And the thing is this: so many of the real estate companies, they will get land, They know in that land they have 100 plots, but they will now market and get money from 200 subscribers. Then some of these schemes, they will not fence them. They will not fence them. So the people who sold to them also have some dubious schemes. So they will go behind, you know, and start selling some of the plots. Before you know what's happening, those who are sharp, because what I usually tell people, if I'm going to help you get land, you have to show me the money with which we will start work immediately. If we are paying on Monday, and I'm giving you receipt on Monday, by Wednesday, I'm moving my team to go and start something. We're going to put something there. Possession is actually a major factor in land acquisition. But you know, some of these real estate companies will tell you land banking, bank land. But they won't tell you to keep money for police, for agbero, for thugs, for juju, for if possible.
African insurance.
They won't tell you to keep money for all those things. So, you know.
But you see, the real estate companies, they are supposed to take care of all these things you just mentioned.
Thank you.
Because they tell you about a global CFO. They tell you about the fact that you don't need to go and be interfacing with the money. That is the advantage of actually buying from. That's why most people abroad prefer to buy from them. But at the end of the day, it appears like where they have this major problem is the issue of oversubscription.
Yes.
They open it up, even when they know that the plot of land is filled up, they should end, you know, subscription. They will continue. They will later they will not tell you that they have
seeing this money.
Nigerians say the diaspora now.
They'll tell you they have a phase 2 of that estate. Then later they will not be looking for land in that area that they are going to. That phase 2 is an afterthought. It's because money is coming in. They don't want it to stop. They don't want money to stop coming in. So they're not going to be looking for how to scramble and get a phase 2 that is not realistic, that does not exist, and all that. That's where they run into trouble. Because when the people now want, at the end of the day, like what's called, they used to sell receipts. That P1 is selling receipts instead of selling properties. You understand? They started very well, okay? Because I did a case sometime in 2015. I did a case sometime in 2015. They were at Lekki area then. And when I got to Asaba, I just saw them everywhere. I said, these people are here again. They sold land.
They made a killing in Asaba.
Yeah, they did what do you call it? No
CFO.
No land at the end of the day, no CFO. Everything promised, nothing. You just give somebody deed of assignment, or you give them.
What are government agencies doing about them?
You give them a
like
contract of sale,
FCCPC.
And at the end of the day, nothing comes out from it. So I think, like you said, that it's a society that punishes trust?
Yes.
Punishes trust and reward deceit and all that. So it's good that someone is calling them out. Because that's the good thing about civil society, even if it's an individual, an activist or whatever. Every society must have that. You always have
shadow government.
Activists, yes. That was someone someone that always, even in spiritual things, even in the days of old. Yes, John the Baptist went and woke people up that they should repent. When the government came on him that he cannot be disturbing people, he left them and went to eating a locust and
they came to him from there.
Yeah, you always have. Society must always produce people who will see wrong.
And call it out.
Yes, no matter how decayed that site is, they will stick to that movement and make sure that things happen. That's exactly what's happening. From here, we can start the conversation.
Very true.
It's very sad, really, seeing things like that, because it should not happen. You see some places in Lagos, like in Lagos, being a participant in the industry, I know that these places are agricultural farmlands, and their sea of what is not just 5 years, but they won't tell people. You mention farmlands. If you even sell land to me, farmland, I would like it to, because, of course, what it means.
No, they don't even give CFO for rural areas. The local government.
No, but these days, some state governments have developed that. They've started pushing CFO. It's supposed to be It's supposed to be right of occupancy. But for instance, like a state like Anambra, you won't see right of occupancy. Okay, they'll just tell you go for CFO.
The state government have usurped the authority of the local government.
That is it. And that is part of when we talk about local government reform. you know, because we don't really engage in debates in Nigeria. We're always in a hurry. So local government will tell you, they cannot get revenue and all that. Whereas, right of occupancy, for the living and for the dead. Yes.
They are supposed to collect that revenue.
If you are burying somebody, you're supposed to pay. You know, because you are buying land from the local government. Even if it's in your compound, you are buying land from the local government, you're supposed to pay for that space. That's 6 by 6. If you are buying land for the living, you're supposed to pay and get right of occupancy.
So you will not feel allowed the day to rest.
So in the US, once you are in, you pay that levy, because as a diaspora, as a what do you call it, as a foreigner, nobody knows what will happen to you. You can die there, and if you die, who's going to bury or who's going to take care of the bills? That's why you keep paying that insurance.
Yeah,
and it's compulsory. You pay it, and when you eventually die, they are not going to lie you down. They will stand you like this. Yes, and they will dig it and stand. The person was asking them, would this person rest in peace like this? They said no, that he's already gone, that the spirit have left him. Now what they are putting, what they are standing is just the carcass, that nothing is there any longer. So well, that is the culture. But you local government authorities, they are the one in charge of those issues, and they raise a lot of revenue from there. So, but ours is not like that, and we don't know what's wrong.
Very so sad. Even if we've learned he's been arrested, we truly do hope that something will be done on that particular matter. And also, according to Scott Ugoma, he often says, this is not a threat, it's a movement. We will take a short break, and when we return, Juror Olajumoke Alawode-James steps in with a case titled, Rest President Buhari. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Next emerges Evans Ufeli, a sage with a heart that beats in harmony with the rhythm of justice, an advocate driven by a fervent dream of egalitarian dawn. Each week he unfolds a scroll of cases bestowed upon him by the wise rabbi, a craft woven with threads of profound thought and searing urgency. His lamentation for the plight of the people rises like a haunting melody, reverberating through a land where self-inflicted wounds twist the tendrils of allegiance into knots of a servitude, traded for nothing more than a pittance, a morsel of bread amidst the hunger of the soul. Then strides forth Emeka Madunago, a linguistic maestro, armed with knowledge as dense as the forest, each word a carefully sharpened arrow aimed at the heart of injustice. He ventures onto this hallowed platform armed with solutions, a veritable panacea for the ail of his compatriots. Emeka unyielding locks eyes with the elite, unflinching in his resolve as he speaks truth to power with the fervor of a modern-day prophet. He advocates for a class suicide, a radical act of severance from the vines of greed that choke the very life of Nigeria, prescribing this sacrificial rite as the only balm for the nation's festering wounds. Now, we bear witness to Innocent Adoluba, a custodian of integrity, where honesty flows like a river untainted. His edges of sacred truth is fortified by the solid foundation of reason, delivering a symphony of clarity that dances gracefully along the socio-cultural spectrum. Innocent, an oracle of the common people, channels their pulse, imbibing the essence of their struggles and transforming them into the language of the streets. His enlightenment becomes a lantern, guiding those lost in the shadow, illuminating pathways once obscured as he breathes life into the collective consciousness. Henry Igwebuike stands as a watchdog, a vigilant watcher of the tempest that permeates the fabric of Nigeria, a land once resplendent with the vibrancy of hope, now adrift in the murky waters of uncertainty. With a heart heavy, yet buoyed by fate, he ponders the fate of this great vessel, once sailed by the spirits of unity and promise, now battered by the storms of discord and strife. What port shall it find amidst the turmoil? Where does the compass of its destiny truly point? As waves of cynicism crash against its hull, as the sirens of turmoil sing lullabies of disillusion. In this pantheon of jurors, each voice rings out a chorus, weaving the fabric of a new Nigeria. Sit, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thanks for staying tuned. My case, rest, President Buhari. Rest in peace or rest in power is how we bid someone farewell when we have fond memories of them. The only word Nigerians agreed upon while bidding former military head of state and two-time President Buhari farewell was rest. There was mixed reactions. Some people were cordial, others were outright hostile. While cautioning ourselves not to speak evil of the dead, a few people weren't having it. They claim our culture of respecting the dead is oppressive. When the person is alive and horrible, we say respect their office. When they die, we say respect the dead. When are we allowed to truly tell the truth about horrible people? There will be people who have issues with you regardless of how kind you are. Not to talk of the leader of the largest African nation in the world, whose business is to make tough decisions and not sell ice cream. But people accuse us of being forgetful, and that's why Nigerian leaders get away with doing the barest minimum. So they recounted the sins of President Buhari. From the Zaria massacre of about 300 members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN, whose offense was blocking the convoy of the Chief of Army Staff with their procession and public disturbance, to the then detention of the IMN leader El Zakzaki and his wife from December 2015 to 2021, regardless of court orders that seemed oppressive, rather than serving justice for their alleged crimes. 3 of the couple's sons were executed and their properties destroyed. Also, the October 2020 NSAS massacre of young people who were peacefully protesting police brutality while holding the Nigerian flag. Over 100 people were injured or killed. Some had to flee the country. There was also the senseless 2022 cashless policy that saw old men cry because of lack of access to their funds for emergencies like food and drugs. Look, many people had different horror stories of the Buhari 8 years. I guess our parents who witnessed him as head of state from 1983 to 1985 are not on social media. Or they're more forgiving, or maybe as accused, forgetful. President Buhari's second coming doffed his first, and though his widow, Aisha Buhari, begged Nigerians to forgive him before he was buried, the vitriol doubled on the day of his burial. Some of us could not put our emotions into words. Anger at a culture that allows the worst of us to rule the rest of us and get away with it, while leaving millions in abject poverty, instability, living in internally displaced persons' camps when the country is not at war, and the sheer lack of infrastructure. I mean, African leaders patronize foreign hospitals and are only sent back home to be buried. For all his campaign promises and even a 2016 government policy banning medical treatment abroad for government officials, President Buhari's body was sent home. Just like he wanted to send Umar Rico back to Nigeria from London in 1984 in diplomatic baggage. Here's my verdict. Of course, everyone will die. But if you want to be remembered well, then make sure you're kind to humanity. If you serve a nation and it's only your family and friends that have good things to say about you, that's telling. May the faithful departed rest well.
Yes, the late President Buhari's death sparked this conversation in the country. They say when Abacha died, people jubilated.
We did though, on the streets. Yeah.
But at that time, there was no social media, so people went out physically.
Yes.
But it seems that the mischief now, is even stronger because people now, in the comfort of their room, just sit down and concoct whatever it is they want to concoct. You see, I was indifferent because I don't see myself blaming those who are castigating him and saying all manner of wicked things about him. And at the same time, those who are saying that we should be morally upright, we should not
we should left hand for God.
We should not
speak evil of the dead.
That we should respect the dead and all that. You see, the truth is that perhaps all of us are alive, perhaps all of us are dead. When you put it together, maybe life is just a dream. His life, it was a below average president.
Jesus.
It was a below average president because this is a man that took 6 months before he came up with his cabinet. And when he eventually put his cabinet together,
he was the same of the same.
He couldn't lead. Most half of the time, he didn't know what was happening. He was
not aware.
Then, when you talk about the issue of upholding the rule of law, he couldn't uphold the rule of law. I will name them. Olajumoke,
Nnamdi Kanu.
What's
Igboho, Sunday
Igboho. This
other
man. Chief of staff under Jonathan.
Juror Dasuki, chief of staff.
Yes.
So when you put all of that, you see that at those instances where the court granted them bail, asked that they be released,
he refused.
He refused them to be released.
Even the man that named his goat Buhari,
Buhari was
in Katsina was arrested
and all that. So at the end of the day, he was a president that didn't. In fact, after his first 2 years, the country started sinking. Sank to the point where he could not provide.
First year, we went into recession.
Yeah, he could not provide.
In 2014, we rebased the economy. We were that was the best we have been.
See the worst part of it. Look at the NSAS. You look at the rule of law that he handled anyhow, the way he liked, and the economy, politics, governance.
But I put it to you, sir,
you know that
Nigeria deserves the kind of government we get. Because if our parents, so I will allow you to disagree, sir. If our parents witnessed his tenure as head of state, when he was busy kidnapping, they were the ones who sold him. Yeah, he will tell you how when he was PTF chairman, how he tied the road to his parents' house.
Yes, but that didn't make him fantastic because in the Niger Delta he failed. There were no hospitals, there were no roads. He just managed in some places.
But I thought he started the recleaning or the cleaning up of the.
With his mouth.
No,
with his
mouth. No, gonna clean up. It was just the high rep.
It didn't happen.
Just
you see, Buhari was just an average person. He usually had a way of bringing some funny characters around him.
He constructed the road to Maradi.
Yes,
the
railway.
30 kilometers.
The railway has been completed now.
When
his father was from Niger.
When they asked him on Arise TV why he did that, he said his cousins are there.
Yes, he has to go and visit his cousins.
Then he bought SUVs and many vehicles and donated it to Niger.
He even gave Afghanistan. Remember, he gave Afghanistan $1 million.
He denied it.
Even when Nigeria
was thanking us for the donation. Meanwhile, Nigerian government was denying the donation.
Have you forgotten that 2 governors in Niger Republic came to an APC rally to campaign for Buhari?
Yes.
Please, pardon me for interrupting you. What I wanted to say when I mentioned that we deserve the kind of governments we get is that which school of leadership did a former military head of state that our parents told us how they used to line up to buy milk, and they spoke of the horrors. Some of them say, oh, he was disciplined, we need him to come and clean up Boko Haram, because that was what they used against the Jonathan government in 2014, that Chibok girls abduction, they are killing boys in Yobe and all of that. But which school of leadership did he go to, a former military head of state, that would make him a Democrat?
He was leading his cows. The cows that never gave birth.
No, it's just a dull.
The cows that never multiplied.
He's just a dull man. Was he not in Sandos? Was he not in the
go on.